4,500 years ago, a wonder of the world rose from the sands of Egypt. A structure so massive, so mathematically precise that even today, with all our machines and supercomputers, people stand before it in disbelief.
The Great Pyramid is a monument built by people who didn't have cranes, didn't have bulldozers, didn't even have wheels, and yet it still stands, unshaken by scorching heat, earthquakes, wars, invasions, and time itself. Today, we dive deep into one of the most fascinating achievements in human history, the origin and mysteries of the pyramids of Egypt.
About 4,500 years ago, the Great Pyramid of Giza was built. Standing originally at around 147 meters, it remained the tallest man-made structure in the world for over 4,000 years. Think about that for a second. For most of human civilization, nothing taller existed. It weighs about 6 million tons. In comparison, the Burj Khalifa, our modern engineering icon, weighs only 500,000 tons. How did people with no modern tools achieve this? How did they carve millions of limestone blocks, each weighing 2.5 to 80 tons? How did they stack them with such accuracy? How did they build something that still stands after 4,500 years, when almost every other structure from that era is nothing more than dust? These questions have made the pyramids the world's favorite mystery. The Great Pyramid of Giza is believed to have been built around 2560 BC during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu, the second monarch of the 4th dynasty of Egypt. We don't know much about Khufu personally. His reign is debated. Some say 23 years, others say 34, and some even suggest over 60. What we do know is that Khufu commanded one of the largest, most organized construction projects in ancient history. The pyramid stands on the west bank of the Nile, and it's not alone. Two other major pyramids share the plateau: Khafre's pyramid, built by Khufu's son, and Menkaura's pyramid, built by Khafre's son. Alongside them is the Great Sphinx, several other tombs, temples, worker settlements, and other smaller pyramids. All across Egypt and Sudan, archaeologists have identified around 118 pyramids. Most are eroded, but the three beautiful pyramids at Giza remain the crown jewels. So why were the pyramids built? The ancient Egyptians believed deeply in the afterlife. So these pyramids were built as tombs. According to their belief, after death, the soul travels to the underworld to be judged by the gods. A good life meant immortality, and a bad life meant eternal problems. To prepare for the afterlife, pharaohs or the kings began building their tombs the moment they took the throne. Inside these tombs, they stored food, jewelry, gold, clothes, furniture, and basically everything the pharaoh would need in the afterlife. The body itself was mummified and placed in a wooden or stone sarcophagus. We know this because ancient texts and writings inside many pyramids clearly describe burial rituals, and most pyramids in Egypt and Sudan functioned as tombs. But here's where the mystery starts. Inside the Great Pyramid of Giza, the most famous of them all, archaeologists found an empty sarcophagus, just 3 relics and an empty stone box. Many historians believe the treasures were stolen long before modern archaeologists arrived. Others argue the pyramid never held a body at all. Where there is a lack of evidence, conspiracy theories flourish. Some claim the pyramid was an ancient power plant that could generate electricity. They point to a strange Egyptian artwork that looks like a bulb. But these images actually depict mythological scenes and not engineering diagrams. Others claim the pyramid was a granary, and it was used to store crops. This was an idea popularized by Ben Carson in 1998. He said the pyramids were built by Jesus Christ's father.
My own personal theory is that Joseph built the pyramids in order to store grain. Now, all the archaeologists think that they were made for the pharaohs' graves, but...
Then, the most sensational theory: aliens built the pyramids. This belief is rooted in the idea that early humans were too primitive to build such a structure. But this thinking ignores a critical truth. To date, there is no evidence of alien technology, but there is massive evidence of Egyptian ingenuity. Everyone knows not to doubt the genius of an Egyptian. But if not aliens, then who built these massive structures and under what conditions? Hollywood loves showing abused slaves being whipped by cruel overseers. But archaeology tells a completely different story. In the 5th century BC, Greek historian Herodotus suggested slaves built the pyramids. But the modern evidence disagrees. Excavations around Giza have uncovered workers' villages, bakeries, breweries, medical facilities, and burial sites for laborers. The bones found show-healed injuries, meaning workers were treated medically. They were fed well, better than average citizens. These were not starved slaves. They were skilled laborers, seasonal farmers working during the Nile floods, craftsmen, stonecutters, and engineers. The entire kingdom got united for the love of their king. Roughly 20,000 to 30,000 workers were involved at any time. They worked around 10 hours a day with rotating shifts. It was a national project, an ancient Egyptian mega-project. For the construction of these pyramids, about 5.5 million tons of limestone, 8,000 tons of granite, and 500,000 tons of mortar were used. Most of these materials were sourced from the nearby areas. The Egyptians didn't have iron tools during Khufu's time. They mainly used copper tools, chisels, saws, drills, and a hard rock called dolerite to pound granite. Cutting the stone was the easy part, but how were the stones transported? Here's where things become fascinating. During a time when there were no wheels, no trucks, and no hydraulic cranes, how did they move blocks that weighed multiple tons? The most accepted answer today is that the stones were moved from quarries onto rafts and then floated down the Nile. At Giza, stones were pulled on sledges across the desert. In 2014, a breakthrough study by physicist Daniel Bohn helped explain this better. A painting from an Egyptian tomb shows 170 men pulling a sledge and one man pouring water on the sand ahead of them. Earlier, the pouring of water on sand was thought to be a ritual, but after deep study, it was found to be an engineering marvel. When sand contains 2 to 5% water, friction is drastically reduced. Wet sand becomes firmer, making the sledge to glide more easily. One small detail in a painting solved a huge logistical mystery, but one mystery remains unsolved and highly debatable. How did they raise these stones to great heights? We have clues, but still no perfect answer. Theory 1 is of building huge straight ramps. Archaeologists found a 4,500-year-old ramp system in an ancient quarry. This suggests workers may have dragged heavy blocks up long ramps and placed them. But the problem with this theory is that to keep the slope gentle, the ramp would have to be extremely long, sometimes longer than the pyramid itself. Building such a ramp would require more material than the pyramid, which seems unrealistic. Theory 2 is of building internal spiral ramps. French engineer Henri Houdin and his architect's son, Jean-Pierre. Houdin suggests that Egyptian workers used an internal spiral ramp in combination with an external straight ramp. The external ramp would be used to construct the bottom 1/3 of the pyramid, and the upper 2/3 of the pyramid would be completed by the internal ramp system. The mysterious Grand Gallery has visible scratching and staining marks along its lower sides, and these could only be caused by a great deal of repetitive force. It's substantial proof that this type of internal ramp system could have been used for placing the stones. But still, many researchers oppose this concept. Which brings us to theory number 3, which is using Shaduf-style levers. Some believe they used long wooden beams to lift stones a little at a time, like the Shaduf, which used to draw water from the Nile. But levers can lift stones only in small increments, which makes the process extremely slow. Scaling this up to move millions of blocks becomes very difficult. It's also possible the builders used a combination of all these methods, depending on height and location. But here's the mind-blowing part. All these theories had one problem. The Great Pyramid was built in about 20 years, which means that to finish such a massive project, workers would need to place one stone every 3 minutes, non-stop, 24 hours a day for 20 years. Looking at the size of the stone and the height of the pyramid, it seems highly unlikely. So to date, the exact method the Egyptians used is one of history's greatest unsolved engineering mysteries. But we do know that the lower layers of the pyramid were placed without mortar. Perfectly cut stones fitted so tightly a blade cannot pass between them. Higher layers used mortar for added stability. This combination made the pyramid not only strong, but earthquake resistant. There's also a unique story about this mortar. Scientists know the chemistry of the mortar used, but even with today's technology, they still cannot recreate its exact durability. A structure built 4,500 years ago survives earthquakes, while our modern buildings crumble. This is not luck, this is mastery. And finally, the last step of the construction, the outer layer of the pyramid. Originally, the pyramids were covered with white limestone casing stones polished to a reflective shine. Imagine the sun striking these surfaces. The pyramids would glow, visible for miles across the desert. Today, only a few casing stones remain, mostly at the top of Khafre's pyramid. But once, the Giza Plateau was a shimmering white city of stone. If we think about how did they align the pyramids so perfectly, the story is very fascinating. Did you know the Great Pyramid points almost exactly to north, south, east, and west? And the error? About 1/15 of a degree. How could a civilization with no GPS, no modern-day compass could align such massive structures so accurately? Well, there are two theories about it. Theory of the autumn equinox. On this day, the day and night are equal and shadows fall in a straight line east to west. Using this method, the degree of error in the calculations of the pyramid would be the same degree of error in the shadows. Egyptians could have used this phenomenon repeatedly to mark directions. The second theory is of star alignments. Robert Bauval's Orion correlation theory suggests the pyramids mirror the three stars of Orion's belt. He believed that the alignment was intentional. It's a beautiful idea, but astronomers disagree. The three pyramids weren't built simultaneously. They were built at different times by different people. The star positions shifted over millennia, and the alignments aren't exact. Still, Egyptians observed the sky closely. Their agriculture, rituals, and calendars all depended on it. Most likely, they used both solar and stellar method, with repeated adjustments. Discussing both these theories was important because when we lack clear answers, we create stories. Humans look for patterns, even where none exist. A small alignment becomes a grand celestial message. An empty chamber becomes alien technology. A painting becomes a light bulb. But real science says it's okay to say we don't know yet. That honesty allows future archaeologists to pick up the thread and push the research forward. The pyramids are not just tombs. They are not just monuments. They are proof of human coordination, national-scale planning, engineering brilliance, astronomical observation, craftsmanship, and ambition that literally reshaped the landscape. If anything, the pyramids show us that when a civilization believes in something strongly enough, be it religion, power, or immortality, it can achieve the seemingly impossible. Subscribe to the channel if you liked the video and comment down below which fact interested you the most.